everybody. Welcome to another edition of Spiteful Stories. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. As always, I am your host, Marty, and appreciate you tuning in for another week of these Spiteful Stories. We're talking about my book, The Boy Who Would Be a Fire Truck. I think it came out, the copyright says 2008, but I think it came out in the winter of 2007. So we made the copyright 2008, so it lasts through the year, but this is the cover to it. I showed the back cover last time. I'm not going to go into that too much. And I talked about a story about phoning Larry King last week. I thought I'd actually read a story out of this week. I picked one of the shorter stories, but it's one of the stories in here that is more meaningful to me because it was kind of a life-changing thing. The story takes place in 1966. We're on vacation at the Wisconsin Dells, and this is the year, to give you a little pretext to the story. This is the year in 1966. This summer, I think it was right before we went on vacation, it kind of exploded with John Lennon saying that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus Christ and caused people to go nuts. And we were on vacation about the time when it was exploding. Me and my brother Jim were huge Beatles fans. Of course, we could care less about this. I remember the two of us talking about it and saying, well, yeah, they are more popular than Jesus. And really, they were at the time for kids. So anyway, here, The Boy Who Would Be a Fire Truck. The name of the story is, I got a little marker here for it. It's called The Pink Store and the Start of the 60s. I got a little fuzzy picture of the Beatles there, and there's the title. And I'm going to read you the story. It's a short story, so I thought it'd be fun to read you the actual story. Then next week, I'm going to tell you what happened with the book. Okay, let me clean these glasses just a little bit here, a little break in the action. Talk amongst yourselves while I do this. Get a little piece of pie, get something to drink, do whatever you want to do. I don't really care. Go watch another video. I was thinking the other day, and I rarely do this. I appreciate all of you that have subscribed and watch these, but it really gets on my nerves when people do these videos, and it's always like, I watch a lot of political stuff on YouTube, just about the news and stuff. So many of them there. Before we get into the main subject here, I want to ask you if you could subscribe, hit the like button, and I get so sick of hearing that. I don't give a fuck if you subscribe or not. I guess I would if I was making money off of this, but I'm not. So anyway, but thank you if you do subscribe. Don't get the wrong message there. I do appreciate it. But I don't really give a shit if you subscribe or not. All right. The name... I was 8 years old at the time. My brother Jim was 10. The name of the story is The Pink Store and the Start of the 60s. And here's the introduction to it. When did the 60s start? It's an old question, and everybody's got a different answer. Some say the 60s started after Kennedy got his brains blown all over Dealey Plaza in that city of rednecks and two-steppers that most people call Dallas. Others say it was 64 when the Beatles first yeah-yeah-yeah'd over the screaming din of wild-eyed teenage girls on The Ed Sullivan Show. Still others cite when Dylan jolted his folky followers by going electric at the Newport Folk Festival. The way I see it, the 60s started as a different point for everybody. For me, the 60s started in 1966. Every summer when I was a little kid, my family would vacation for a week in Wisconsin. It wasn't in the Wisconsin Dells, but it was close. We'd rent a cabin with a screened-in front porch and a grill in the back. There was a lake and a sandy, man-made beach and a shuffleboard area and a park and a pink store. The Pink Store, it didn't really have a name, but it was pink, hence the Pink Store. It was a small converted cabin that sold candy and ice cream. There was an old-time soda fountain with a small horseshoe bar surrounding it where you could sit on a stool with your ice cream. Next to that was a jukebox, 3 plays for a dime. My dad's brother and his wife and kids, my Uncle Bill, Aunt Ann, and our cousins always rented a cabin, and both families would always try to be the first to arrive. This year, we won. We unpacked, got settled into the cabin, but our cousins hadn't shown up yet, and myself and my old brother Jim, I was 8 years old at the time, he was 10, were getting restless. To give us something to do till our cousins showed up, our mom gave us each a quarter and told us to go to the Pink Store and get a treat. Well, she didn't have to ask twice. We lit out down the road, made our way through the park, past the horseshoes and shuffleboard area, and opened up the screen door and made our way into the Pink Store. There were about a half a dozen kids hanging out inside. Some were standing, drinking sodas. A few were seated in the wooden stools. I distinctly remember that all the boys, there were four of them, had crew cuts or closely cropped hair. There was almost a crew cut. It was a bit of a strange sight because everyone I knew, including myself and my brother, had a Beatle bangs hairdo. Basically, it was hair combed across the forehead, just above the eyebrows. These guys looked like they had just stepped out of a rerun of Dobie Gillis. The jukebox was going. If I remember correctly, the song playing was Keep On Dancing by the Gentrys. My brother Jim and I went up to the counter. We each ordered a king cone, which was a frozen vanilla and caramel ice cream cone. I'd lost my place. I'm trying to look up too, and now I'm losing my place. We each ordered a king cone, which was a frozen vanilla and caramel ice cream cone with the nuts on top. The guy behind the counter looked like a high school kid who didn't seem to be too thrilled to be back there when all the action was on the other side. He was tall, although since I was a short little run at the time, anything over 4 feet seemed tall. Slim, and he had a flat top. He looked a little like Reggie Mantle from the comic strip Archie. He was wearing an ice cream stained apron over a white t-shirt and jeans. We ordered our cones, and he served them up with great disinterest. Then we wandered over to the jukebox, and that's when the trouble started. Remember, the year was 1966. This was the year that John Lennon made his scandalous statement that the Beatles were more popular with kids than Jesus Christ. It sent the country into an uproar, even though it was the truth, and everybody knew it. Overnight, assholes were burning their Beatles records and magazines. Radio stations were banning their music. Well, none of this mattered a whole hell of a lot to Jim and me. We were Beatles fans, and we weren't really influenced by some redneck DJ telling kids not to listen to them. We didn't really think too much about the whole thing, and it was with this frame of mind that we approached the jukebox. Keep On Dancing by the Gentrys had just ended, and we each put a nickel in and got 3 plays. The first song we chose was the Beatles hit at the time, Nowhere Man. It took about 5 seconds for the song to kick in as we were picking out our other 2 songs. We picked out What Goes On, the flip side of Nowhere Man, and The Pied Piper by Crispy and St. Peter's. You can Google that one. Anyway, we turned around, and every other kid in the store was staring at us like we were covered in warts and shit was dripping from our eyeballs. One by one, every kid got up and left the store. We looked at each other in disbelief. Seconds later, the flat-top counter boy had come out from behind his perch and walked up to us. "Why don't you two take your ice cream and eat it outside?" he said in flat yet angry tones while pointing to the screen door. "Our song is still playing," Jim told him. Since he was 2 years older than me, he was usually the spokesman in uneasy moments like this. As we stood our ground, Flat Top walked behind the jukebox and ceremoniously unplugged it. The music stopped, and he walked back over to us. "It's over now," he said, and led us to the door. There wasn't much we could do. We were just little kids, so we left. Now, that's a sickening lesson to learn when you're just 8 years old, but it's one that stuck with me, and I'll never forget it. No matter how much of a good time you're having or how grand your luck seems to be, always remember there's some fucking dimwit asshole lurking around the corner who's going to pull the plug on the jukebox, and there's fuck all you can do about it. That's when the 60s started for me. There's that story. I really like that one. I mean, not every story. There's funny stories in there, but there's also meaningful ones that have a good memory for me, and that's always been a great memory. And it kind of was when I'll switch my glasses back. That is the moment, because I remember Jim and I talking about, like, oh, that kid's a jerk or whatever we said about him. But kind of when you started to see it's kind of us against them, that kind of a feeling, and laid the groundwork for later on in the 60s and everything that followed. So one of the many stories in The Boy Who Would Be a Fire Truck, still for sale on Amazon and Lulu. There's a link below if you'd like to buy it. There's many other stories in here. Stories about fish wrap, about Dick Stolley, about moving to New York, all kinds. This is more of like life stories. My upcoming book, Confessions of a Spiteful Writer, that's purely about my writing career. There's stories about that in here, but there's other ones too, like the one I just read for you. So, all right, hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for tuning in. Next week, I'm going to tell you what happened to the book after it came out, and then we're going to move on from there. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next Monday when I have a frozen pizza. All right, take care, everybody.